guiding the young minds of our future. Actually, you look quite familiar. Did you come by recently? Yes, I remember. Your library card expired, didn't it? I am glad you remembered. Having a small library is such a gift in our little town. And knowledge is the greatest strength, after all, and we should not take it for granted. That is why I've been working on this book, actually. A collection of stories from the wonderful people in this town. Maybe someday people will read it and look back at the people who made this town what it is today. I don't have a title for this one yet, but I'm sure it will come to me. Oh, I must show you around. Do you have a moment? Well, why don't you all follow me? I wanted to get a few new quotes for my book anyways. Maybe you'll even learn a thing or two. Just this way. It's a bit of a long walk, but we'll get there.
55? It's growing fast. With more families arriving, the demand for schools will only increase.
More families mean more people to visit. Maybe we'll meet another boy from Brazil, like you said, Father.
If we are so lucky, my boy.
What does that mean?
My apologies, Headmaster. I did not mean to catch you when you are with your family. Do you have a moment?
Not to worry, dear. We were just about to go in for the night anyways.
All right.
Excuse me, this here is Edward, a devoted student of the world, who would carry on my passion for education by founding a school of his own, one that would rival any in the land. The building still stands today, just down on Main Street.
A pleasure.
And this sprightly fellow is Francis, a boy who's never shied away from adventure. He'll go quite far, literally. From 1859 to 1866, he'll spend 7 years in Japan, of all places.
How do you do? I have this picture of a Majugosaurus. It's a dinosaur.
Wow. That is really a drawing.
Fertilizer.
My name is John Hall, and this town has always been my home. I was born in 1783, the year that the Revolution gave breath to this country. I was fortunate to attend Yale University, graduated in 1802. I was one of 230 boys in that class, studious, eager, and not yet aware of what sort of life lay ahead. Those truly were, as you say, the good old days.
Now let me see if I've got this right. After Yale, you tutored for a time, owed farmland just outside this town, and by 1812 you were appointed judge of the county court, a title which I have read stayed with you long after your service had ended.
Yes, dear, exactly so. Yet it was not the court nor the field where I felt most called. No, it was a quieter and more noble calling, education. In 1825, I opened a small school here in Ellington, originally to teach my own boys. It was humble, but by 1829, I had the good fortune to build a much grander school, one with students arriving from Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, and even as far away as Louisiana, the West Indies, and Brazil.
And, let us not forget, Father, students from across the world would continue to come. In the 1870s, at my own school, a young boy from Japan, Yanosuke Iwasaki, studied with us. He would go on to become the second president of the Mitsubishi Corporation.
I don't even know what a Mitsubishi is, but it sounds awfully grand. Imagine that, me in Japan. Father, is it true? Do I get to go to Japan like Eddie does?
Indeed, Francis. And thanks to that friendship, Yanosuke cherished his time here so much, he gave generously toward the building of our library.
That is remarkable. Yes, academia does uphold quite the status in our little town. And from what I understand, being a student under your watch was no easy thing.
The Ellington School was known for rigor and refinement. Our boys studied rhetoric, mathematics, science, philosophy, Latin and Greek, and sometimes French. They learned to speak well, think deeply, and behave honorably. The school operated like a family. Discipline was firm, but the approach was parental. Even their health and manners were under watch. And when each term ended, we hosted public examinations, days filled with speeches, recitations, and all the townspeople gathered. I still remember the loud cheers from the boys as they climbed aboard coaches to return home, calling back one last hurrah for the old school. During the early days, my dear Junius joined me as an instructor, and one particularly promising teacher, Alfonso Taft, would later father the man who would become our nation's 27th president, William Howard Taft.
Now, you were once described by Taft's biographer, were you not? Let me see. Yes, here it is. He wrote of Ellington as a quaint village, and of you, John Hall, as a typical New England schoolmaster, competent, punctual, and expecting the same of others.
I suppose I'll accept that.
That sounds about right, Father.
Now, by 1834, your school had grown so steadily that you opened a school for young ladies, staffed by talented female teachers and offering a curriculum just as strong as the one for boys.
It was my firm belief that education should not be limited by gender, and I was proud to provide opportunities to young women from near and far. I remained principal of the school until 1839, when illness forced my retirement. But even then, I could not sit idle. I wrote textbooks, essays, and treatises, including on the education of children, while under the care of parents or guardians, because I believe deeply that the first school a child enters is his home. When I passed in 1847, it was not in a schoolroom or a courtroom, but at peace, knowing my life had been spent in service to growth of mind, of character, of community. My children saw fit to honor that with the Hall Memorial Library. I never asked for such a thing, but when I see it today, books lining its walls, young minds inside, it brings me such joy.
Well, I sure am thankful to your family for honoring you with our little library. It certainly has become a staple in our town, and from what I understand, many towns are not as fortunate.
If I've left behind any legacy, let it be this: that character is formed in quiet moments, that knowledge must walk hand in hand with virtue, and that a single schoolhouse can touch the world. That, dear friends, is a life I am proud to have lived. Now, if you will all excuse us, I believe Miss Nellie here would like to introduce you to the lieutenant.
Yes, good day. As you can see, a naturally wonderful and naturally scholarly family.
Yeah.
They will certainly take up many pages in my book. Oh, how I wish to have had the chance to learn under Mr. Hall. Now, do we have any teachers in the audience tonight? Oh, back there. Now, what do you teach? Beautiful. Do you enjoy teaching it? I'm sure. And I'm sure that you can agree that school these days is not quite what it was when you were a student. Anyways, allow me the pleasure of introducing you to Lieutenant Penny. I am sure that he has a nice story to tell. Just this way.
Such a beautiful day. Sad that the sky is holding its breath.
Yes, my dear, you can see all the way to the heavens when October behaves herself.
I'll go see about the children. Last I checked, Loring was still chasing the shadows. No, don't wander off on me, Eliza Penny.
I wouldn't dream of it. Not on a day like this. A friendly good day to you all.
Good day.
My wife Anna and I were just enjoying this perfect day here in Ellington. She's gone to settle the children.
There's never a quiet day when you have 6 young ones, and truth be told, I wouldn't know what to do with the quiet anymore. My name is Ellignton Epitaphs. I was born here in Ellington in 1752. Back before it was even Ellington. It was still part of East Windsor in those days. And our line goes all the way back to Somerset, England. My ancestor Humphrey came across in 1630 on a ship called the Marian John. Just 139 souls and a world ahead of them. He settled here in Connecticut. And, well, 147 years later, I stood at the edge of a battlefield and watched the British Army surrender to us.
Is it true that you were at the Battle of Saratoga, Lieutenant? It must have been a strange sight, seeing the most powerful army in the world lay down its arms.
I was there when the British camp fell, part of the militia division that helped break the Redcoat line. 10 days later, I did witness General Burgoyne's surrender. But as I looked across the field, I couldn't help but wonder if perhaps some of them came from Somerset. If the war had brought me face to face with distant cousins that I'd never known. War can do that. Make you enemies with someone who might have been your neighbor had things gone differently.
And what happened when you came back home?
Well, when I came home, I finished building the home that you all must know. The Penny House. I began building in 75, but had to stop when the fighting began, and finished in 78. She's brick built, with 5 chimneys and a fireplace in every room. Big enough to shelter a family in half the green on a training day. There is truth to the story, that when the militia trained on Ellington Green, some of the boys used to ride through the front hall into the kitchen to water the horses. My wife Anna will pretend that she would never allow such a thing now, but I've seen her smile at that memory.
Now, Lieutenant, according to my notes, you were very involved in Ellington becoming a town.
You have indeed done your research, Miss McKnight. In 1786, we finally separated from East Windsor. And on that first ballot, I was elected first selectman. Then again, and again, 14 years in all. I served in the state legislature, helped settle estates, took on guardianship cases. So many, in fact, that some of my neighbors began calling me the Administrator General of Ellington. I never knew if they meant that kindly or not, but, well, I chose to take it kindly. Now, I never sought office, I just tried to show up when asked. That's how I see it. Whether it's in war or in town hall, you lend your strength where it's needed. I lived 83 years in this town. I saw it split from another, watched it grow, and saw the world change. My world change. But still, on a night like this, it feels the same as it did when I was a boy.
Darling, if you're done with your stroll, the boys are asking for you.
I was a man who went when called, and I came back to help build something better. That's legacy enough for me. Have a wonderful evening, Miss McKnight.
Isn't he charming? We are very, very lucky to have men like him in our town, especially during times of war. So many of them answered the call. You know, he reminds me of my father. Intelligent, brave. Speaking of which, I should probably tell my mother where I am. You don't mind, do you? Oh, up there actually, we just passed the Wileys, my friends. They were very important, but they don't seem to be home tonight. I'll have to visit them another time. Asa Wiley and his wife are 2 of our town's most prominent people. Asa. Asa, what an interesting name. You know, he was both a lawyer and Tallinn County's first probate judge. Did you know that his house still stands on 36 Main Street today? Oh.
Ellie, what have I told you about being out and about so late? I don't know what I would have done if my mother had...
Oh, good evening to you all. Are you friends of my daughter's? Please tell me one of you is a boyfriend.
Mother! Not this again. I'm a grown woman now. We're just stopping by to say hello. Now, where's Father?
Oh, I do forget you have your own life to live now. I believe he went to go bother Mr. Pitkin. Something about a big sale coming up at his store. Perfect timing, actually. I've been meaning to start our garden again. Do tell him to come home now. I've almost finished with his trousers.
All right.
Oh, Father!
Oh, good evening, Miss Nellie.
Good evening.
Miss Nellie, don't forget about the fertilizer sale tomorrow.
Wouldn't miss it for the world, Mary. Now, let's try that big word one more time. Ready? Fertilizer.
Fertilizer.
You're doing a great job, sweetie. We'll keep working on it. Now, what do you have here? Oh.
Yes, Nellie. I was just finishing up with Mr. Pitkin. He is an extraordinary businessman. And we are talking about an upcoming retail sale at his store. We are both quite excited about it. As a matter of fact, his store still stands on Maple Street, just outside these cemetery gates.
That sounds wonderful, Father, but do be sure to check in with Mother before the day grows any later.
Ah, yes, your mother. She certainly keeps me in line. Say, sweetie, what are you still doing out here? Shouldn't you be heading back already? You're not sneaking around with any boys now, are you?
Father! I am heading over to see what Dr. Patton is up to tonight. Remember the book I told you I'm working on? Anyways, I'm a little too busy for boy nonsense nowadays.
Well, right then. Well, stay safe. And please give my regards to Patton. He certainly helped me out last summer when Bessie stepped on my foot. I didn't think I'd be able to walk right again. That man is quite remarkable.
Truly.
Good day.
Good day to you, Father.
Bye, Miss Nellie.
Goodbye. Right over here, we will be coming up on Mr. Patton. All right? I do hope that Mrs. Myers is around tonight as well. Well, you've all heard the stories, right? This way, you have to meet them both. You will see many different names on the gravestones. However, most of them are not the gravestones of people that you'll see today. No balloon today, Mary. I didn't see it when I came in.
Now, Nellie, that was many years ago. Anyways, I can't risk this beautiful hat blowing away in the wind.
Would you care to tell the tale? I've been holding a page for you in my book.
Of course, dear. Now, you know, Doctor, all these years later, I still recall the way the trees bowed beneath me, as if the town itself had risen to greet my hot air balloon, of which I adoringly named the Skylark.
I still recall standing in that field, utterly astonished, watching a brave lady from New York. There was one evening in April 1862, when a simple lesson turned into a descended from the heavens as though she belonged to them.
You were kind to me in that poor balloon. I always say I chose the right backyard in all of Connecticut.
I dare say you brought more excitement to Ellington in one afternoon than we'd seen in years. The whole town turned out, young and old, as if you were a comet or a visiting queen. Good evening to you all. We were just reminiscing about Miss Myers' famous visit to Ellington. If you are not familiar with her aerial exploits, I suggest you find her little book, Skylarking in Cloudland. It's as thrilling as it sounds, and all of it true.
Now, don't let me distract you. I believe you owe these good people a proper tale of your own.
Oh, yes, Doctor, do tell us.
We do enjoy our memories, Miss Myers and I. But if you've come to learn of my own path, I will share what I can. I was born in East Windsor in 1816. My interest in dentistry led me to study under Dr. Keyes in Boston. An apprenticeship, as formal training, was still finding its footing in those days. In fact, when I began my practice here in Ellington in 1842, it was the first of its kind in town. And though I came as a dentist, I quickly became something more. A community doctor, in that sense. For in those days, a man who could pull a tooth might as just easily be called upon to treat a fever, set a bone, or find the right solution to soothe a persistent cough. Soon, life granted me another gift. Another Mary, a Mary Comstock of Tolland. We were wed in 1843. She was my best friend and the greatest happiness of my life. Mary was a gifted musician, known across the town, surely the region for her voice and her skill at the melodeon. You've all met Edward Hall tonight. Well, did you know he often invited her to his school to teach music to the young people of Ellington? There was one evening, wasn't there, April 1862, when a simple lesson turned into something much more? Didn't the entire village turn out? What began as a modest afternoon lesson became an impromptu concert. The windows glowed with lamplight, and music drifted into the streets well past sundown. I can still hear it from time to time.
When you weren't treating neighbors or tending to teeth, I read that you kept a small farm just down Main Street.
The very property I landed on.
My wife and I had 6 fine horses, a few good fields, and many dear friends and neighbors. Ours was a close-knit town.
Yes, yes. I see here that in 1878 you were elected to the state senate. That must have been quite the honor.
It was indeed. It was my second attempt, first in 76 and then 2 years later. What a close election in both cases. If there are any people with you tonight from Willington or Summers, I would surely like to know why I could never win over townspeople.
Now, Robert, I'm sure it's fair to say these fine people would most certainly vote for you.
Well, I would hope so. Nevertheless, I was proud to lend a voice to our little corner of Connecticut. My service lasted just 1 term, yet it meant a great deal to me. When Mary passed in 1890, it was as though the music left the house. More accurately, my own being. But she left behind the legacy of kindness, joy, and melody that I still feel in every quiet moment.
You see, I told you he was more than a man of medicine. He was the heart of this town.
Oh, how I love the way that you just said that. Would you mind if I used it in my book?
Of course.
I simply did what I could for as long as I could. And with that small knowing, I rest well.
Good day to you both. Yet another example of the incredible work ethic and dedication of our beloved Ellington citizens. Speaking of such, we are just a block over from Mr. Lavitt's. Shall we go pay him a visit? Oh, good evening, Lillian. Are you doing all right? I heard about...
I read somewhere that where you are from stays with you forever. I would like to think that this is true. I think it is true for me. Many of us spend much of our youth trying to escape our roots, but I did not mind the soil I was planted in. Rich, sturdy, beautiful Ellington soil.
Oh, Lillian, I was just working on my book tonight, visiting some friends. If there's a better time.
Oh, no. That is quite all right, Nellie. Okay. I am quite used to the press after all.
Yes.
My name is Lillian Hall. I was born here just down the way to Ann W. Allen in 1866. Oh, but no relation to the Halls that I am sure you have already met this day.
Yes.
Well, let me share with you that there was no place more alive in the 1890s than the Ellington Grange. We were not just neighbors, we were a community. We met monthly in the Grange Hall. Farmers, homemakers, thinkers, doers, and everybody else in between, including those unsure yet of what to make of themselves. Well, at 24, I was granted the position of lecturer. That is just a fancy word for entertainer and sometimes educator. I cherished that role and felt joyful when I was able to make others laugh, and oh, how we laughed. Do tell, does anybody know why an old person is like a window? Well, because they are both full of pains. I remember one night, an early fall night, in 1890, the hall was packed as we balloted new candidates, and we welcomed new members. We ended the night with music and silly contests. Best bread, poorest pie. Well, that same year, I married Frederick Hall, and in 92, we welcomed little Violet May into the world. Oh, full of hope, the picture of innocence. She was my joy and my passion. But joy, much like the summer, can be cruelly short. I remember that day in April of 1896, when just shy of her 4th birthday, we lost little Violet. I will not speak of how, but only how the world felt colder without her, quieter. I began to drift. Something changed inside of me that I cannot put into words, and perhaps it was but the final blow to whatever was already boiling over inside of me. And so, I am sure that is why you were all here today. So let me tell you the story of Clementine St. George Ray. Clementine was a sickly widow in Rockville, impoverished, injured, alone. I wrote about her in national ladies' magazines, how she had an artificial leg and the other was barely keeping up. Indeed, she sought companionship and kindness and help. She just hinted at her need for charity. Oh, how it came. Clothing from Illinois, dimes from children. Oh, sympathy from pastors. An artificial leg all the way from Geneva, New York. The postman grew overwhelmed keeping track of it all. Well, Clementine, much like my sweet Violet, was innocent. But, well, Clementine, unlike Violet, was a terrible lie. And when the truth came out and the paper started asking questions, there was no place to hide. The headlines were merciless. I was charged with defrauding the U.S. mail. I faced fines and even prison. I trembled in court, my husband beside me. My own dear mother had to help post my bond. But the truth was inevitable. I was guilty. Guilty, guilty, guilty. And I pled as much. But then something remarkable happened. Well, the letters, they came again. But only this time they were not from strangers. They were from my friends, my neighbors, members of my community, my Ellington community. 135 people signed a petition asking the courts to grant me mercy. Prominent men and women alike. People who remembered me as my mother's young daughter. People who grew up beside me. People who remembered me as the entertainer, the lecturer, the contest master. I faced no prison. The judge fined me $300 and a stain on my name that followed me for the rest of my life. Well, I resigned from the Grange. Frederick and I moved to West Springfield. We lived quietly. He passed in 1932 and I followed in 1939. Well, we all wear many different faces during a lifetime. Well, for me, a daughter, a wife, a mother, an entertainer, a schemer, perhaps a bit too intelligent for the times. Yes. A woman of letters, both true and false, and I will not ask for your forgiveness. But perhaps, if you think of me, you might not only think of Clementine, but perhaps you would think of me also as the woman who brought joy and laughter to the little Grange Hall, and the woman who asked for charity for herself, because both were me.
Give my regards to Frederick. Thank you, Lillian. My dear friend Lillian, yes, it is sad, but she is strong. Ellington, as wonderful as it is not immune to struggle and shame. We try to see beauty in other things. Sometimes that is all we can do. Lean on one another, support one another. Yes, yes. You know, there is another man that I'd like you to meet. He, too, is familiar with hardship, just this way.
All right. Tell it again, Dad.
Yes, tell it again.
Okay. Listen. Way back in Ukraine, Cohen,
Yep.
Miller, and I were just boys. 13, 14, maybe. You remember those little doodads we had?
Yeah.
I think they were called Bobby's?
No, that's not.
No. Bobkey.
That's it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Bobkey. I remember now. Anyways.
Excuse me. Sorry to bother you. I was wondering if we could borrow Mr. Lavitt for a moment.
Of course, dear. He wouldn't mind at all.
Would you mind telling us about yourself? I'm working on a book of all the great people in this town, and since you found such success, you must tell us how you did it.
Well, I usually...
Oh, go on, dear. Don't make me get the Bobkey.
Fine. I was born in Ukraine in 1868. Precocious, apparently. Russians confined us to the farthest west. The Pale, Ukraine, Romania, Poland, and Lithuania. We were viewed as a threat to their Catholicism. As Jewish people, we could not own land. Our education and business were restricted. Tsar Alex was assassinated in 1881, and among the bombers, a Jewish woman. That fact unleashed great upset and long simmering resentment against Jewish people. Riots broke out, 82 and 83, vicious, deadly. Police looked the other way. Lavitts, Millers, and Cohens, we knew we had to send one of us to America to get settled, to send the rest of us.
They saw that hope in Max. Bought him a ticket.
I arrived by ship. Oh, it had steam and a smokestack. But it was a glorified sailboat. The whole trip took 2 weeks. Can't say I was ever scared. Knew I'd find a way in the Lower East Side. And, after all, I had family counting on me. And I found a boarding ship. Worked in a slaughterhouse. Moved the way up that 15-hour grind of sweatshops. Peddling the old Singer, sewing men's clothes. Never something I necessarily dreamed of doing. But I had family counting on me. There's no daylight in such job, right, Rebecca?
6 in the morning to 8, 9, 10 at night. And that was if you wanted to save your money. And don't even start with those disgusting tenements.
We met married at the end of December in 1892, living on Delancey Street in our own apartment when Samuel was born. He was born in 1893. Now, I spot an opportunity, rolling the dealing cigars. October 1894, I'm naturalized. I am a U.S. citizen. But then, I'm sweating again. We moved to Canaan Street, where Joe was born. There are 4 of us now.
And he can't get cigars out of his head.
I know that they're my future, but can't find my foothold. That, however, gets me thinking about Virginia, Norfolk. Tobacco is my future, and I know it. But I have a family to get across the Atlantic to bring to America. So, in 1896, we make the move. Becky and I save enough money to rent a home and set up a grocery store on Allen Street. We find the established German-Jewish community there. Synagogue is very important to us. And the one we find is Orthodox and newly formed in 1896.
They soon have their own cemetery.
I am a humble but active member during my time there. I find myself on the front end of a growing brotherhood. See opportunity in the back alleys between those long, narrow rows of old money mansions. Can envision already a store for Joe Cohen, Joe Miller, and Brother Powell back home. In business, I find success. Partners with 3 fine men, non-Jewish people. The Forco, we call ourselves. I wanted to be here, in Ellington, growing, curing, and selling tobacco. And so, I sell my interest in the Forco in 1912. I was even honored to add my signature to Knesset, Israel's constitution, so thoughtfully written by Samuel Levine and Louis Franklin. That was 1913. They're both buried here, in fact. I can't say exactly where, but they're somewhere on this side in our Jewish cemetery. Now, January 1915. I signed papers for the brick house on Maple Street. We're all moved up by spring, and I'm ready to plant my first crop. Those times were good. Those times stretched from 15 to 25, I'd say. Lots of family Sundays. But they weren't without upsets. Sadnesses. But then, those among us were marrying, having children. Then, my warehouse burned down. All of our tobacco gone, burnt to ash. Next, a bad accident with our summer boys. We lost people. Depression dropped the price of tobacco. Faith in family. That's what got us through. Got us here.
We lost Max in 1936.
Yeah, I was always remembered. And so were they. If you'll excuse me.
Thank you, Max. Some things are just better learned through word of mouth. Even I get tired of staring at books all day. If you'll excuse us, we have one more person to visit tonight. Follow me, will you? We went through many hardships, but as you can see, family truly got him through it. Just this way is Mr. Hyde.
Gentlemen, I'll be back shortly. Always good reminiscing with a few old friends.
And with you, good sir. Some of my fondest memories have been with you by my side in Louisiana. You always treated me with kindness, even if I was just a young boy.
Nellie. So you're out for a stroll and quite a few friends. Do you mind if I join you on this fine day?
Of course, Mr. Hyde. We were curious what you and the others were discussing.
So those boys over there, Jason Thrall, his brother Alva, Charles Grover, John Thompson, they're all from Ellington. They all served with the 25th Connecticut Volunteer Regiment during the American War of the Rebellion, or as what you may know it as, the American Civil War. Now and again, we gather here to recall our time in the service. It's hard to believe, but the 25th actually served down near the Louisiana Bayou. It was hard country and hard service. As for myself, I served with the 14th Connecticut Volunteer, Company D. We served further up north in battles you may have heard of. Antietam, Fredericksburg, Chancellorsville, and Gettysburg.
Yes. So many men from our town served during the Civil War between 1861 and 1865.
143 to be exact, and we were merely all citizen soldiers that came from everyday walks of life. We were farmers, laborers, teachers, tailors. We were defending our new nation, protecting our republic, and fighting to preserve our blessed union. There was nobility in our cause. We weren't taking up arms for merely greed and plunder. For nearly all of us, war was an entirely new enterprise.
Oh, hi. Come on back now, you hear? What happened to reminiscing with old friends? Isn't that the librarian?
I'll have him back soon.
Oh, it's you, Miss McKnight. That reminds me. My library card expired.
Ah. Won't you tell us of Gettysburg, Mr. Hyde?
I will, absolutely. Just please follow me this way over here. Gettysburg, July of 1863. The second day of fighting had just ended. We had been placed in the center of the Union lines along Cemetery Ridge. Merely 160 of us remained in the regiment. On the third day came what's known as Pickett's Charge. 2 long gray lines with skirmishers before them emerged from the trees about a mile across the plain. Reinforced here and there, they stretched as far as the eye could see. They advanced in perfect order, their muskets flashing in the sun. We lay behind a low stone wall and fence and held our fire until they were within 200 yards. And then suddenly a thunderclap of musketry from our lines. The first rebel line broke and fell back sending the second into confusion. They rallied for a while, but then ultimately men started falling by the scores, cut down by our fire. When they faltered, part of our regiment attacked, captured 5 battle flags, and took 40 rebel prisoners. Later, wounded and shaken, 100 rebel soldiers surrendered themselves. A monument to the Connecticut 14th still stands at Gettysburg today. And as for myself, while I bore my wounds, at the Wilderness, a ball across the face, though slight, it marked me. Later, at Petersburg, Virginia, I was struck again, and this time I lost my left eye. But by the grace of God, I survived, discharged June 8th, 1865, and then I returned home to my beloved Ellington. War is curious. Battles, both big and small, they're all the same. The loss of friends, the horrors of the battlefield, and the everlasting wounds.
Mr. Hyde, before the war, did you have much chance for schooling?
You ask because you yourself are a graduate of a fine school, are you not? Mount Holyoke, 1917?
Yes. 4 years well spent, filled with memories of friendships I will hold dear all of my life.
Well, you and I are kindred in that way, for I too had my season of learning. In 1861, I enrolled at the Connecticut Literary Institute in Suffield, Connecticut. I was one of 103 gentlemen alongside 60 women. I studied philosophy.
Well, good day to you all. Say, where is your mother?
Philo put a ball through the window and Mother said bad words. Now we aren't allowed to come back until the sun sets.
Ah, David and Philo hope to find someone for a game of ball, and we are collecting leaves.
Look, this one looks like David. Do you want to play ball, Miss Librarian?
David, Filio, I believe some of Mr. Hyde's friends over yonder would be glad for a game of ball. You should ask them.
But back to my schooling. Even during my studies, the farm was never far from my thoughts. I was born here in Ellington, May 12th, 1841, son of Ephraim and Esther Hyde. They worked the same farm that still stands today.
Father!
Ah, there's my daughter, Murdy.
Well, hello, Miss Nellie.
And hello to you, Murty. What have you brought?
My autograph book. Would you like to sign it, Miss Nellie?
With pleasure, my dear.
She likes it when people sign her book. Friends, would you please be so kind as to add your names? It would please her greatly.
There. Not to worry, Murdy. Our guests will have plenty of time to sign your book at my house when we return. I just need your dad for a few more minutes. Is that all right with you? All right.
In the years after the war, I did my best to honor the men who served. In 1896, with my comrades, I helped establish the Grand Army of the Republic Hall, Burpee Post number 71, named after our beloved Colonel Thomas Burpee of the 21st, who fell at Cold Harbor. The hall was meant to be more than just brick and timber, a living memorial that served both the town and our veterans. Every month, we gathered, welcomed new members, shared memories, and kept the spirit of our service alive. As for myself, I found peace in home, in duty, and in remembrance. The family, the fellowship of my comrades, and the farm, these have all been my blessings. And with that, my daughter and I shall bid you good day.
Good day, everyone.
Goodbye. Well, what a treat it has been to take a stroll with you all tonight. I do feel so lucky. I think I've got everything I need to finish my book. Come this way. You may notice the donation jars that will be coming up. And
At your house, Nellie.
yes, at my house. Self-publishing is very expensive. Just kidding. All the donations go towards the Ellington Historical Society and the Ellington Community Theatre. I do thank you all for coming, and please stay a while back at my house across the way for refreshments and more stories. Does anyone have any questions? I think Christopher and I might not have the answers, but we can try our best.
Except I'm not Christopher.
Yes.
No, I did not. She never got married. She died at 87 years old in 1981, and she gave her house to the museum because she started the Historical Society.
I did, in fact.
What?
I did, in fact.
You did, in fact.
I must bid you good day. Thank you.
Did you learn anything?